So again, this is the shape. For example, if you look at the cube, this particular shape is just elongated with a piece cut out of it. So just below this, kind of fitting this on the page, kind of plotted this out a little bit. So I just separated myself at just a distance of one square that's here, and made this twice as long, so it's a total of 6 of these squares, but the same width. So it's 3 by 6 in proportion. So I'll just lightly sketch that there so you can see the beginning and the end there. And that'll come out in a second, but just kind of plotting it out first before I start to shade it and build this piece up. And this is just 3 of these spaces tall. Okay, so I'm just using the help with that section right there. And then you can see the 30 degree. And again, this is the isometric, which is 30 degrees on either side. It's equal measurement all the way across. Okay. It then has 3 distances to come down, but we're just going to come down 1 depth of this for 1 square. And if you can project that onto the back, you can see where that comes through. So I'm just lightly outlining that piece. And the bottom part you'll be able to see. So the nice thing is that everything is equally placed across, equal spacing. The depth of it is measured from the foreground, or the front view is equal to that on the back side of it. So it makes it very easy to duplicate there. And then the shading again takes on a whole area of pieces. So when you take a look, you're trying to look at this front corner and build that up so it has the depth of a dark side, which is going to be on the left-hand side. The light side is going to be to the top, so it's going to be lightly toned from the back, which is against the white of the paper, and brought up, and just a gradient placed in there. This panel that's behind it is also going to be a dark value, but it'll have the reflected light, so it's going to go dark to light. And this front view, this front side will be the mid-tone, so it's going to be just a little value up at the top here and blending that down. And there you have that pretty well laid out. Again, using some of the tools that you have, trying to keep the drawing somewhat clean. I just have a scrap piece of paper that I can also use to help me shade, so I'm going to try to show you that way. I have a scale, and I also grabbed a triangle that I can use just to demonstrate all these possibilities. So once you have it laid out, this is the linear construction of the drawing. You now want to shade this and continue with the drawing that way. So I'm just going to use the part of the straight edge, so just to show it to you. And again, once you have the line that's in there, I'm going to lose that line with the shading, and you want to get a nice gradient that's happening here. So for example, this piece here, I'm just going to leave that ruler right up against it. I'm going vertically with the shading, so even if I leave some of the hatch lines to start off with, it'll emphasize the shadow of that particular piece. And then right up here is where it's going to be the darkest tone. So right along this edge is the most contrast, meaning the light value and the dark value. So I'm just going to lay it out lightly just to get it set up so you can see it. And I'll do the same with this particular angle. So here's this part. Here it can just come down straight. Kind of a big area. So again, the grid is helping you measure, get the proportion, get the scaling from it, and then right from here it's just going to go dark to this gradient, and just keeping the scale there just to bump up the pencil. And I can even take this is the paper that I'm using to keep it clean, but I can also use that. It's just one thickness of the paper, and it works perfectly to help me shade that in. So I'm just trying to show you as many different ways as I can to to get you to think of how it's going to be laid out in there. So there you can see that edge. And again, so it's just a matter, you can do it freehand, but then it's nice to just go back and touch it up with a straight edge. Makes it nice and clean there, down to that edge. So this front view is the mid-tone. The left side of it's going to be the dark value, and then this part is going to be the lightest value. So just to give you a little bit of tone, going right along that edge, and blending that in, and leaving the light of the paper to be the contrast. So you're trying to, again, take a look at these front corners. And now I'm just going to make this a little heavier. This time I'll demonstrate the triangle, which is just a little bit trickier. And as you're shading some of this, you can just push the pencil against the triangle there. And it helps guide the pencil right down the road there. I'm going to put that paper underneath my hand so I'm not smearing my drawing too much. And again, this I'm going to really emphasize this front piece. Again, you can see just the paper, and as it has the texture, you can press that down and you'll lose a little bit of the texture, but you'll have the light coming through that really good. And you're trying to get a nice transition of the gradient as best you can there.